Hi, my name is Seti and welcome back to a second webinar. This is part of the Google Learning webinars for Singapore, and we are really happy to see that you've joined us for this one. Now, if this is the first webinar you're joining, make sure that you also check out that description below, because we will be linking to all the other webinars as part of this series. Now, a number of different presenters are presenting on various different topics, and every webinar is an hour long. So lots of learning going on, and you can find all those links in the description below. Now, if you weren't here for the last webinar, my name is Seti and I'm a presenter with Apps Events. Now, this webinar in particular will be all about your Google Classroom and how we can enhance that Google Classroom to really teach effectively, also motivate our students and increase the engagement that is taking place on Google Classroom. Now we're going to dive onto Google Classroom. I'm going to show you a couple of tips and tricks, and I'm also going to show you some of the lesser known things you can do within Google Classroom. We'll be together for about an hour, and this video has been pre-recorded. Now that means that myself and a number of other Apps Events presenters will be in that chat down below, and we will be answering questions. So if you see anything or if you have a question about something, make sure that you jump into the chat and that you ask your questions there. We will do our very best to answer all questions as fast as possible, and we'll try to be as clear as possible. Now, this webinar can always be rewatched at a later time, and that means that you can stop and pause the video wherever needed, or even rewind a section and rewatch that. Now, I'm convinced that you'll find this webinar useful. Now, as with the previous webinar, everything you see today will be possible on a Chromebook as well. So let's just dive into our webinar. Now, the first thing we'll talk about in this webinar is making your classroom look good. Now, making a classroom look good not only helps you staying organized and getting everything structured, but it also increases engagement from students because they find the classroom more inviting. It's an online place, and if it looks attractive, then they'll be more likely to want to spend time there. Now we're going to look at setting up our classroom. Then we're going to look at using that description to give some additional information about our lessons or about our classrooms. And then we're going to customize the header image. Now I'm going to show you how you can upload your own image, but we're also going to be creating our own image within Google Drawings. Using that, we can then create a drawing that maybe reflects our students, and then seeing that custom header will really engage them. As students who see that you've put in the extra effort to make that header look good, well, they will be all on board trying to use Google Classroom. We're also going to be looking at cinema graphs, what they are and how they can be used within Google Classroom. And then I'm going to show you a little power tip on changing the folder color, because every classroom gets a folder color. So let's dive onto our Google Classroom. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my browser. Now you can see my browser is opened. I am currently in my Google Drive, but I might as well just be on my homepage. So here you can see there is a homepage, and finding Google Classroom, well, there are two ways that I like to use to find or navigate to Google Classroom. Either you go to the top right corner after you've signed in and you use the app launcher. This is where you can find all the Google apps. When you click on that, scrolling down will give you the option to click on Google Classroom. Clicking on that opens up Google Classroom in that tab. Now, alternatively, you can use the URL. So here at the top, instead of just simply typing something, you can type in classroom.google.com. Now, typing that will send you to that exact same homepage. Now here is my Google Classroom homepage, and you can see I already have two demo classes here. If this is the very first time that you are on this platform, then you will see nothing there, but you will see a little marker that says that you should be looking in the top right corner. Now the reason for that is because we have that big plus icon right there. That plus icon is where we either create a class or we can join a class. Now creating a class will enable you to invite others. Joining a class means that you become a student in that class. So it is possible for, say, an edtech trainer or an integrator to create a classroom and have the other teachers join that classroom to receive training. We've seen this at schools where it has been used for different CPD or professional development sessions by different subject teams. They create a classroom and they invite everyone else so that resources can be shared easily. So this is something that is available to everyone. So let's go ahead and create our very own class. I'm going to click on that plus, and instead of joining a class, I'm going to be creating a class. I'll show you how to join a class later. So let's go ahead and click on create a class, and we have to give it a name. I'm going to call this the Singapore webinar demo class. So let's go ahead and type in Singapore webinar demo. Section, this is optional. You can give a little bit of additional information. I like to use this to add the teacher's or the instructor's name. And if you have a team presenting something or running some professional development, you can put all those members of that team in here. This will be a nice reminder for future reference, and it also helps to keep track of who's delivered that PD. So I'm going to put my name there. I'm going to just type in my full name. And then you can add a subject. Now the subject, this is completely up to you if you want to fill this in. You don't have to fill that in. I'm going to leave that blank for now. And the room, I'm actually going to type in online because it's not taking place in a room. It is all taking place online. And together we will be exploring Google Classroom online, and you can always rewatch this later. So let's go ahead and click on create. This Google Classroom is now being created, and you'll see it takes a little bit of time. And the reason that it takes time is because it isn't just creating that Google Classroom. It's also creating a calendar, which is linked to your Google Classroom. It's creating a Google Drive folder linked to your Google Classroom. So everything is linked together, and we'll look a little bit more into how to use that calendar and how to use that folder. But just so you're aware, every classroom will automatically create those additional things. Now, the first thing you'll see here at the top is that we have the name of our class, Singapore Webinar Demo, and then the instructor's name. Now, this could also be used for any information you'd like to share. Underneath that, you'll see our class code, and this is the code that people can use to join our class. Now, I do recommend don't share this when you're still setting up your class. Make sure everything is ready, good to go, and then share that with people. Because otherwise you'll have people flooding in, and then you still have to set up the header, set up the subjects, the structure. So I would wait and invite people once everything is set up. Now, if you want to share that code with people that are present in the room or like this during an online webinar, you can always click on that icon next to that to display the code. Now, when I click on that, it'll give you a much larger view of this code. This is great for online presentations or when you're in a room and you're presenting on a whiteboard and you just need all the members in that room to join this. I've used this during EdTech trainings where I've just presented the code or written it on the board, and then people can join even when they arrive to a session late. Here we can see we have that code, and say that this is still not big enough. Well, we also have another icon again in the bottom right corner. When we click on that, it goes full screen. Great for when you're working with multiple displays or different monitors. You can display that code and just get started with your session. So we're going to now minimize that. And then you'll see that we also have an invitation link. Now, when I click on that, a link is copied into my clipboard. That means that I can now open up my email or any other platform. This could be your online learning platform, or this could be your email, and I can paste the link. Now, when people click on that link, they automatically get invited to my classroom. So let's have a quick look at what that looks like. We're going to open up our Gmail. So I'm going to open up my Gmail in a new tab, and I'm going to type an email. So here I'm going to type this to my demo students account. So I'm going to just type in my demo student. There we go, student 1, subject classroom, and then I'm going to paste that link down below. Alternatively, they could join using that code, but I'm going to send them the link for now. Let's go ahead and send it to my student demo account. In a separate window now, I'm going to open up my student demo account. Here we go, we are in my student demo account, and let's navigate to Gmail and find that invitation link. You can see here we have our inbox. That link has come in. I'm going to open up the email and click on the link. It automatically opens up Google Classroom in a separate tab, and it pre-populates everything I need to join the class. So here you can see which account do you want to use, this one. Okay, click on join class, and we are now a student in this class. As you can see, we didn't have to fill out any codes, we didn't have to do anything. And that's because we've used that invitation link. This is great for when you want people to just have easy access into your classroom. However, if and when they share that link out with others, those people can join as well. So do think carefully if sharing a link and a URL is what you want to do. We're going to close this now and minimize our student view, and we go back to our teacher's view. Now, because we've had our first student join our class, we can see that student here in the People's tab. We're now back on our homepage for our Google Classroom, and the next thing we're going to be looking at is that header. Now here at the top you can see we have a tech-related header, but we can select a different theme for our classroom. So let's go ahead and click on Select Theme, and then here you have a number of different themes. These are built into Google Classroom and you can use any of these. You can see we have different subjects here at the top, and we can choose whichever one we like best. Let's go ahead and select this one for now, and I'm going to click on Select Class Theme. Everything changes, that header changes, and the fact that this header has changed means that I will instantly see which classroom I'm going into, because when I go back to my classes homepage, you can see that those headers are reflected here as well. Now, what makes a header even more attractive is when it's customized. Now you can customize this with anything you want. I'm going to upload a photograph and I'm going to customize it with a beautiful photograph I have on my hard drive. So let's go ahead and just find that photograph. Here we go. This is a photograph taken off of the Pexels website, and we're going to just upload that. Once you've uploaded your photograph, you need to crop it. So you can see you can crop any section here you'd like to use. I'm going to use this section and then click on Select Class Theme. This will now upload that photo, crop it, and adjust it for readability. You can see we have those clouds there at the top, and it just looks more personalized. When people click on this little drop-down arrow, they can also see that this is taking place online. So let's just close that for now. So now that we've uploaded our custom header, let's have a look at creating our very own header. Now, creating your header can be a lot of fun. You can even set this as a task for your students. Maybe it's a welcome activity, or maybe it's a bonus activity. They've completed all the work, and instead of giving them an extension activity, you allow them or let them design a different header. Then you can run a little competition or a contest, and the best headers get chosen to be used in your Google Classrooms. Now here we're going to create our header in Google Drawings. We are now on our Google account here, and we have our drive open. Now you can see I've already created a classroom header here, and this is a blank document. I can easily copy this, but just so you know, this is just for reference, because our headers for Google Classroom have to be 400 pixels high and 1600 pixels wide. Okay, that's good, but how do I actually get this done? Well, when you are in a brand new Google Drawings file, the first thing you're going to do is adjust your page settings. So let's go to File, and then we're going to find that Page Setup. We're going to click on Page Setup, and now we are going to select Custom. Once you've selected Custom, you can change it to pixels. And this is what we want. We want a height of 400 and a width of 1600. So let's go with 1600 and then a height of 400, and let's apply. There we go. We now have our template, and you can title this Classroom Header Template. You can then share that with your students. You can even use Google Classroom to share this with your students, and I'll show you in a minute how to do that. So we're going to just title this Header Template. So remember, 400 by 1600. Now we can start inserting images. So let's go ahead and find that image that we've used for our header. We're going to click on Insert Image, Upload from Computer. Find that exact same image, and you can see it here. It's a little bit too small. So what we're going to do is we're just going to enlarge that to match the size of our canvas. Scroll down, and now we're going to crop it. So here at the top you see a crop image tool. This allows us to crop it all the way down. You can see once I hit the edge of my canvas, there is an additional red line that appears. That's where I let go of my crop. I'm going to do the same with the bottom. I'm going to just drag this up, wait until I see that red line, and there we go. Now we're leaving everything else as it is and enter. We have our header image. Now I want some custom text or maybe another image on top of that. And so I'm going to insert an additional image. Insert image. I'm going to use the Apps Events logo. There we go. We're going to just pop that down there and we'll just leave it as it is. Dive into those format options, maybe give it a drop shadow. I'm going to change that drop shadow to maybe be a white drop shadow. There we go. Change the angle, the distance, and that looks much better. Now let's say that you're ready to use this as your classroom header. Next step will be to go to File and then Download as a PNG. Now a PNG image will be high resolution and high quality, so we've got that image now. This is being downloaded. If you're on a Chromebook, this will go into your Google Drive and then you'll find it there. We're going to go back to our classroom and we are now going to upload a photo. So here we click on Upload and then we can select that photo right there and drop it. The file is being uploaded and we're going to again be asked to crop it. So we're going to now crop this image. Because we've already set the correct dimensions, we can go all the way up to the edge. There we go. And click on Select Class Theme. This will now pull this theme in, and as you can see, the background now is unique to this classroom and it is customized with your very own image. Now, if you want to take this a step further, you can use something called cinemagraphs. Now, cinemagraphs are GIF or GIF images, and you can use these as well to upload. So let me just quickly show you what that looks like. I'm going to upload a little GIF that I've made here, and I'm just going to upload that image into my Google Classroom. Now, it takes a little bit of time to upload because the file is slightly larger, but you can create your own GIFs or GIFs using any video editor software. Again, just set your canvas to 400 by 1600. There we go. We're going to adjust the crop. You can see the image is already starting to play, just like a little video, and it'll be on loop. I'm going to leave that there and then click on Select Class Image. There we go. This is being uploaded. It's changing the header. And now instead of a static image, we will get that beautiful GIF or GIF, and it will just run and loop at the top of our classroom. You can see we have our little animation there, and our classroom looks unique. Maybe you have your students, maybe you have their faces. Anything you can think of goes into your header and it's ready for people to use. And that brings us to the next one, and that is changing that folder color on your Google Drive. Now, if you remember, when our Google Classroom was created, it automatically creates a calendar and a Google Drive folder. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and find that folder. Let's go to our Google Drive. And what you'll see is that there is a new folder that was created, Classroom. When I go into that, you can see my 3 different classrooms. So what I want to do is I want to give this folder a different color so it highlights that this is a special folder separate from everything else. Well, we can right click on that folder and then we can change the color. Now, I highly recommend that you do that. Changing the color will make it very visual and it'll make it much easier for you to then find where your resources are that you've shared on Google Classroom. Let's go back into Google Classroom. The next thing you'll want to do is really decide on a structure. How are you going to structure your Google Classroom? Because once you start setting assignments, you're going to have so much information being pushed out to students that it can be overwhelming. Now, deciding on a topic structure will make that much, much easier. Now, once you've decided on a topic structure, then you can start setting it up. So here you could either use a weekly structure where you have week 1, week 2, week 3. You could decide on topics, English, maths, design. You could decide by unit. Maybe you have different units. For example, first unit, technical drawing, second unit, design thinking. You can decide by type, what sort of files are being shared. Have you got slideshows, website links, etc.? Or do you want to have smaller group units? Maybe you have Unit 1, Week 1, Unit 1, Week 2. We're going to have a look at how we can set this up. After that, we're going to be looking at an additional tip, and this is to have a resources topic as well. I'll show you why you may choose to use that. And then we're going to use grade categories for grading our tests or even to highlight different aspects about different tasks. Now let's go back into our Google Classroom and let's have a look at this first page. You can see from the top we are on the stream page. Now when I scroll down, I can share something with my class. I can just simply type, "Hello everyone." and then post that message. Let's say I want to post this later. I can click on the drop down arrow there to schedule this out, and then the message will go out at a later time. I can also add a link. Now the stream is just a stream of information. So every time you post something, it'll show up in that stream. That means that this message could easily get lost, and it doesn't need to be structured. However, at the top, you'll see there is a second tab, and that tab is the Classwork tab. Now, when you click on Classwork, this is where you will set assignments. This is where you share resources with your students. And this is also where you're going to decide on that topic structure. So let's go ahead and click on Create. And before even looking at any of these other types of assignments, we are going to be clicking on Topics. Let's add our first topic, and for this example, I'm going to focus on units, but again, please use what works best for your class. Maybe you're writing the week of the 5th of November, and then you just continue that way. If it is units, then go by units. And I'm going to go by units. I'm going to type Unit 1, and then Technical Drawing. There we go. Let's add that to our topics. You can see here on the left-hand side, we have all topics and then Unit 1, Technical Drawing. We're going to create another one. Let's go ahead and add our second unit, Unit 2, and then this will be Design Thinking. Add. We're going to add a third one. Let's go ahead and add our third unit, Unit 4, Unit 3, Robotics. And you can add all the units you need. Now, as you can see here, Unit 3 is at the top because this was the last one to have been added. I can always drag and drop these around to arrange them in the correct order. So we now have Unit 1, and we're going to drag Unit 1 up. We now have Unit 1, 2, 3, and here on the left-hand side, we have the same representation of these units. Now, if you remember on my slideshow, I recommend to have a resources topic as well. So let's go ahead and add that right now. Create topic resources. There we go, add. Now the resources topic, that one can stay at the top because it is a very useful one for our students to have. Now when we click on the three dots next to these, we can always rename them, delete them, or copy the link directly to this entire unit. This is very useful when you're emailing your students about an update or when you just want to share a link with them on your virtual learning system, and then this way they could send straight to the correct unit. Now you can see all these topics here because we've set it all up. However, there is no content inside these units yet, and that means that your students will not see anything yet. Here you can see in my student view and the Classwork page, there is nothing there. They don't see those units. So please do go ahead and set up all your topics so that you can get organized before you send them out to your students. In the stream, you will see that that message is there, and then my student can respond to that. We're going to continue setting up our assignments, and the first thing we're going to share with our students is a resource. So let's go ahead and click on Create. And let's share a material with them. We're going to share a resource, and that's going to be that classroom header resource. So let's click on Material, and I'm going to say the classroom header template. And I'm going to add a description to my assignment or my material or whatever you're sharing with your students. Please use this template to design your very own classroom headers. There we go. And then we are going to add that file. Now here at the bottom, I can create a brand new file, but I don't have to do that because I already have the file I'm going to be using. So let's go ahead and click on Add, and then select from our Google Drive. So I'm going to click on Google Drive, and now I have to go and find that template. So here we can see we have our template here. I'm going to click on it and insert. Now you're not done yet. Because you've inserted a file on Google Drive, the next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to assign it to the correct people. So double check that at the top, because here on the left-hand side, you can choose the different classrooms. Say that you're teaching year 6, 7, year 8. You can assign this to all those classrooms at once. We can also select individual students. Now, before we can start doing this, we do have to have students in our classroom. So at the moment, I'm not going to do that. I'm simply going to keep it at all, and Singapore as well at all. There we go. We can now also add a topic, and this is why it's so important to set up your topic structure first, because when I click on this drop down, I will see all my different topics right there. I'm going to select resources, and then I can post this message. So as soon as I click on post, this will be put into the Classwork page. You can see it comes under resources, and here we have our classroom header template. I can click on that to find out what exactly I said, and then students can always go and view that material by clicking on that link as well. I can add class comments. Leaving a comment will start a discussion. Looking forward to seeing all your designs. There we go, and we click on send. Post that message to the material, and we are done. We can go back to our classroom by simply clicking on that. We see that this has also appeared on our stream, but when we go into our classwork, it is still neatly organized within those different topics. At the left-hand side, if I click on resources, I only see my resources. If I click on Unit 1, I only see the Unit 1 resources there. So this is a great way of really organizing, structuring your classwork. Okay, seeing as we are starting to assign some work, let's also invite some students. We're going to go to people and say that you haven't used that invitation link or you haven't used the code. Well, you can manually add your students here as well. You can see I have student 1 here, but I also want student 2 to be present. So I'm going to click on the icon invite students. Let's go ahead and invite student 2 as well. There we go. We're going to invite student 2 to our classroom. Click on his name and then click on invite. You can now see that this student has been invited, but he or she has not yet accepted this invitation. So let's go ahead and open up that student's demo account so we can see what an invitation sent to them looks like. Going to open up that account. There we go. We're going to jump into their mail, and then you will see the invitation. And there we go. You can see the email at the top says class invitation Singapore webinar demo. So when they click on that, it opens up the email, and here they can click on the join button. As soon as they click on join, they get sent to that same page. Remember the page you see when an invitation link is sent, and then they can join our classroom. All ready to go. They are now a member of our classroom, and they have access to everything that was shared with them prior to joining this classroom. So we can close this account now, and we're going to see that this is automatically updated, and we can now find our students right there. Now say that your domain admin has enabled guardians, then you can also add the guardians there. So here on those 3 dots, when you click on that, you see the option to email your student, while you will also see the option there to invite a guardian. Now, in addition to inviting students, you can also invite co-teachers. You go to that same page, people, and then at the top, you can click on the plus icon yet again. And this is where you can now invite multiple teachers to teach the same class. That means they can start assigning work to your students, they can start grading this work, and they can get involved in every aspect of running this online course. So we're going to click on cancel now, and now we're going to have a look at some additional ways of using those assignments. Now we are in the People's tab, so the first way that we can communicate is by email. Let's say I want to send an email to student 1, well I can click on the 3 dots and then email that student. This will automatically open up Gmail, pre-populate that email address at the top, and I can start emailing this student. Let's go ahead and close this, and let's select multiple students. So you can see here I can click on multiple students in my list. This could be as many as you want, and then under actions I can select email. When I click on email now, it is going to open up Gmail one more time and add all students into the BCC field. That means that they will not see each other's email addresses, but you will still send that email to every single student you've selected. I love this feature. It's a great way of not having to memorize all the email addresses and just quickly getting in touch with them or sending them an email. Let's go ahead and close this for now and look at the other ways that you can communicate within Google Classroom. Now, as you can see on the slideshow, there are 3 different ways of communicating with comments. Now we have the class comments. These are comments that everyone can read and everyone can interact with. Then we have the private comments. These are comments that only the student you have sent it to can read, as well as your co-teachers. And then we have the comments in the documents that have been shared. So these are completely separate from Google Classroom. They're in the document and you can start a conversation right there. And it's very important that you select the one that works best for you, the student, in that scenario. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're going to go to our stream, and here we are going to post a general message. Comment here, please. This is going to go out to all students, and we can click on post. This is now posted into the stream, and we are going to see our students interact with that content. So let's go ahead and open up our student account. Here we go. The student sees that, and they're going to add a class comment. Yay, can't wait. There we go, and send. As soon as they've posted that, my stream as a teacher will also update. So here you can see my stream will automatically update, and that comment is now visible to anyone in the classroom. I can click on this little arrow here to reply to this comment. Great to see that. And then click on post. This way we can get a conversation started, and you can see that they are also tagged with that plus icon. That means that this comment will not only notify the person that I'm replying to, but it is also part of that class discussion. Here we can click on the three dots as well and delete any comments that are unnecessary or inappropriate. So say that your students have posted something that needs to be deleted because they've shared some information that maybe they shouldn't have shared, you can click on the three dots and delete that comment. Say a student needs a bit of a timeout because they have been posting things that are inappropriate, you can also mute that student. That means that they will no longer be able to post any general comments. Let's go ahead and open up the student 1 account now and see exactly what student 1 sees, because we are having an interaction here between the teacher and student 2 with a direct comment back to student 2, but this is part of a class comment. So to student 1, this will look slightly different. They will see that not only has the teacher sent a general comment. Now, as you can see here, because it is part of class comments, student 1 also sees all these responses. They do see that student 2 was tagged, and therefore they may not want to follow up on that. Now, this is not ideal when you have a large class, and if you are going to interact with people one-on-one, it's not always as enjoyable for the rest of the class to see that entire flow or that entire conversation. So another way of using comments is private comments. Say that you've assigned a piece of homework and the student has a question about that. Well, you can always send them a direct comment. So here you can see the classroom header template. There is a class comment there, and it always says that it's a class comment. That means that everyone can read it. So remember, class comments are always public and everyone in the classroom can read them and interact with them. Now, the private comments, that will become part of your feedback. So once you've started assigning work to your students, private comments become enabled within those assignments. So let's go ahead and do that right now, and let's assign some work. So let's go ahead and set up some assignments. Let's share them with our students, and then let's attach some templates and look at rubrics while we're there. So let's open up our teacher's account. Now you can always double check to make sure you're in a teacher's account when you're using demos by looking at the top. Teachers see 4 tabs, whereas students only see 3 tabs. You can see here 3 tabs. Let's go into our teacher's account. We're going to click on Classwork and create an assignment. Now this assignment will be part of our first unit. So let's go ahead and click on assignment. We're going to title this Your Technical Drawing. Just a little demo assignment. We can add instructions. Now these are optional. I'm going to leave it blank for now. I'm just going to type some random instructions here. Please create and submit your drawing. There we go. And we can add, again, attachments. Here we can choose from Google Drive, link, file, or YouTube. So let's go ahead and select Google Drive. And let's select one of these. We have a slideshow here that we can use, prototype design. Let's go ahead and insert this slideshow. Now, because we've attached a file to an assignment, we now have to choose what we want our students to do with this assignment or with this file. Here you can see at the moment the students can view the file. That means they can view my presentation, but they can't really do anything with it. Another option is to allow them to edit this file. That means that they can all collaborate and work on the same document. Alternatively, you can choose to make a copy for each student. So each of your students selected will get their own copy. This is a great way of creating a template or a scaffolding and then sharing it with your students. So let's go ahead and select that one. We're going to create a copy for each student. Make sure we're in the correct classroom. I'm in that classroom. If I want to select multiple classrooms, I could do that right here, but I'm only going to select the Singapore webinar classroom. We're going to select all students. Both students will receive this assignment, and we can now assign points or grades to this assignment. I'm going to set this to 200. There we go. We're going to give it a due date. We can say that we want it submitted by the 20th of October, and then link it to our first unit, technical drawing. Say that you've already started setting up your assignment and you've forgotten your units or your topics. You can always create a new topic right there and then start using it for future assignments as well. Let's select Unit 1, and then let's scroll down. Now here you will see we have the option to add a rubric. Now a rubric will be incredibly useful for your students to really know what is expected when they are completing this assignment. Now you can see I've assigned 200 points here for the total assignment, and I'm going to attach a rubric to show them what those 200 points stand for. So let's go ahead and click on Create a Rubric. We are now having to set up our rubric. Now we don't have to use points or assign scores, but just for the example, I will do so. We're going to click on Use Scoring. We're going to leave this on, Use Scoring, and then we're going to add a title. So the first thing that we will test them on, the first 100 points, will look at their presentation. So we're going to look at the presentation. So if you remember, we have 200 points that we're handing out. So we are now going to set up our criterion. Here we will give them 20 points if they reach this level, and this will be a developing level. Means that they made minor changes. You have made minor changes to the presentation. There we go. Going to add a second level. Here they will be awarded 50 points. This will be at a consolidating level. Consolidating, you have added information and made changes to the presentation. Then we can also assign them 75 points. This is when they are secure. So we can add a description, clear presentation with changes and sources clearly marked. There we go. And then we can also have 100 points, which will be a secure plus. Secure plus, clear presentation, sources marked, and many additional. There we go. So this is the first criterion that we are marking. So this is the first part of our marking, 100 out of 200 points. Then we're going to add a second criterion, and this is going to be the second half of our 200 points, so another additional 100 points. This will be all about the content. And then we're going to again have two different levels. They either get 50 points, this will be the needs work level. So description, you need to think about the shared content and add more information. Or they get 100 points, and then this is a secure level. The content is clearly presented and contains all the needed information. So just to summarize, let's have a look at our rubric. We have a first half of the 200 points. 100 points is about how did you present your work. They can either get 100, 75, 50, or 20 points, depending on the level they've worked on. And then they can have a content, another 100 points, they either get 100 or 50, needs work or secure. Once we're happy with this rubric, what we can do is we can click on Save, and this rubric is now added onto this assignment. So you can see here we have our assignment, a description or instruction for our assignment. The file has been added. This file will make a copy for each student. It is a 200-point assignment with a due date. It's part of our first unit, and there is a rubric attached to this. So let's go ahead and assign this. We're going to click on Assign, and this will now be pushed out to our students. We can always click on that drop-down arrow to schedule this ahead of time, so you can set everything up in the weekend and then the assignments go out later during the week. But I like to make sure that everything is set up and then send it off. So here under Unit 1, you can now see your technical drawing. As a teacher, we can go in and I can see that none have been handed in and 2 students have been assigned this work. I can also click on this one more time by clicking on View Assignment, and then this will pull up an overview of our students. So here you can see each student has their own copy of this slideshow, and I can always go in to see that assignment. So now let's go ahead and click on student 1's assignment, and this brings us into the slideshow. This is where our student is working. They are working on this slideshow. And here on the right hand side, I can start marking, I can start adding comments, and I can give them feedback. Now remember, this is the teacher's view. The student does not see this part. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go through their presentation, say that they've not yet submitted this, but we do want to give them some feedback as they are working on it. So here on this title, I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to just leave a comment. Please change this title. Now, this is the type of comment that happens within a document. It is not on Google Classroom, it's within their document, but I am doing it from inside my Google Classroom. That means that I don't have to leave Google Classroom in order to do this. They, however, will only see this comment when they're in their document. I can also, here on the right-hand side, use a comment bank. Now, I know I'm going to have to comment a lot about punctuation, so let's go ahead and add it to our bank. Please check your punctuation. There we go. And then click on Add. Now, having this comment bank can save you a lot of time because it means that you can have paragraphs of comments ready to be copied. Click on Copy and then just paste them into your main slideshow. I'm done leaving comments within their document. I'm going to close this tab and I'm going to go into my second student. Now, this second student has their own file. They're doing their own thing. Let's open up that comment bank, and here we have that comment bank one more time. Let's just right click here, leave a comment, copy that comment in and paste it for them to read. There we go, all done. We can now go back to our Google Classroom. Let's have a look at the student side of things. Now here our student has been assigned some classwork. So here our student in their stream sees that there is a new assignment. Let's go ahead and click on that. And they are now inside their assignment. Here at the top, they see it's a 200-point assignment. Please create and submit your drawing. They see that there is a rubric attached to this, 100 points for the presentation, 100 for content. They can expand this criterion to see exactly how they will be graded, and they can also expand this to get more information. Once they're ready to get started, they open up that slideshow and they can start making their changes. As you can see, they are in their slideshow. They see those direct comments, they can respond to those, they can reply to them, and they can change everything. I'm going to change the theme of the entire slideshow, so it's very clear that this is my own. There we go. And you can see here at the top, this is my work, and I can now hand this in. Say that you are asking them to add additional work or additional files, well then the student can always add or create a new file from right there and submit that. We're going to hand in our work. So you can see one attachment will be submitted, hand in. Once I've handed in my assignment as a student, when the student goes in, they can no longer edit this. It has now been changed to view only. They can, however, still unsubmit their work and then make changes. So in other words, they can submit the work to you, and then once they've submitted that work, you can start grading and you will see that they've submitted this. Let's go back to our teacher's account and you will now see that one student has handed in his work and another one has been assigned but not handed in. Here you can see handed in, assigned. And the left-hand side, again, same thing happens, handed in, assigned, and it's asking me to grade this. So now let's go ahead and do that. We're going to click on that one that has been handed in. It opens it up. And we're going to grade it. We're going to give it a mark. We're going to look at this, say that for presentation, we want to select a consolidating, and say that for the content, he gets secure. There we go. Once we're done, it automatically calculates the total score, which is 150 out of 200. And then we can simply click on this drop-down arrow. We can return this submission, return multiple submissions, or just click on return here and then click on return. Once we return, they will be notified about all the marks that you have made. So let's go ahead and return the work to our student. Our student has been assigned 150 out of 200 points. Here they can see that their work has been marked. They can see how it has been marked. So here it is consolidating content secure. And this is where they can now leave a private comment. So here in the bottom right corner, private comments can be exchanged about this work. And they can ask questions about why they have been assigned a certain grade, how they could improve it, and just start that conversation with the teacher. These private comments are not visible to the other students. Only class comments are visible. So this is a way of assigning work, attaching that rubric, and by attaching a rubric, you are making sure that your students are performing at the best of their ability. They know exactly what's expected from them, and then they can choose to maybe put in a little bit of extra effort to try and work their way up that rubric and get better results. Now, because we've graded our first assignment, what we can do now as a teacher is we can open up that Marks tab. Now, when we go into Marks, we'll get an overview of all the work that our students have submitted and also the points that they were assigned. So here you can see the 20th of October, they had this assignment. They got 150 out of 200. And it clearly says how much each student got. Now, only the ones with grades go into your mark book. The ones that are not graded or ungraded assignments will not appear here. It will give you a class average, and it really highlights which assignments or which topics you may want to revisit in the class or just go over them one more time. Now let's go back into Classwork and let's create some different resources. We're going to click on Create, and now we're going to set a quiz. So let's go ahead and create a quiz, Fun Quiz, and it automatically attaches all the files needed for a quiz. So let's have some fun with a quiz. Here you can see there's a blank quiz already opened up, so we're going to click on that and we can call this Fun. And we can call this Fun Quiz. The first question is favorite color. There we go, option 1 green, add an option blue. And just for fun, let's say that green is the correct answer. Now, because we are having the quiz already set up as a quiz, you will notice that here down below there is an answer key. So I'm going to select answer key, and I will say that green is the correct answer. Done. Okay, you can add all your questions to this quiz. Let's go ahead and add a second question. What is 1 plus 1? First option, 2. Second option, 3. There we go. And we are going to again click on answer key and say that 1 plus 1 equals 2. Done. Now, in addition to adding an answer key, you can also give some feedback in case they get it wrong. So let's just add a third question now and say, what size is needed for a classroom header? There we go. We're going to have option 1, 400 by 1600. Option 2, 500 by 600. And then here we are going to add an answer key. Now the correct answer is 400 by 1600. And we're going to add some answer feedback. If they're incorrect, we're going to say, please check the resources shared on Google Classroom. Please check the resources shared on Google Classroom. If it's correct, great work. There we go. Now, in addition to text, you can also link to an assignment, link to a video. Same for the incorrect answer. You can link to an assignment, link to a video. This gives you the opportunity to not only give them feedback, but maybe send them to an instructional video that gives them a little bit more information about the mistakes they've made. Let's go ahead and click on Save. Okay, we're ready with our quiz, all done. Now we don't have to click on Send in the top right corner because this is part of our Google Classroom assignment. So let's go ahead and close this. There we go, our quiz is here. Now once this is set up, one more box to tick, and that's great, importing If you want to grade this quiz and you want to make it part of their gradebook and also limit them to a single response, you make sure this is ticked on. If you untick this, then they can have multiple responses and it really is a fun quiz. I'm going to leave it as grade importing. Here at the top, points, we're going to set this to a simple 10-point system. We don't have to add a rubric for this one. We can if we choose to. And then also a due date. No due date and part of the technical skill drawing unit. There we go. We're going to assign it to all our students and this is now being assigned. Let's jump onto our student account. We are now on our students account and our student sees that there is a new assignment posted, a fun quiz. Let's open this up. Let's have fun with a quiz and here we can open it as a student. You can see we can only answer questions and we cannot edit anything. So favorite color, let's say that it's blue. There we go. Now, if you remember, the correct answer was green. So this should give me a mistake or an error. 1 + 1 = 2. And then what size is needed for the classroom header? Let's make another mistake and say it is 500 by 600. We're going to click on submit. And there we go. We can now view our score. So let's go ahead and click on view score. Favorite color, I was wrong. It was supposed to be green. 2 correct. And then here, 500 by 600 wrong. And then the feedback down below. Please check the resources shared on Google Classroom. This could also be a video or a link. Now this can be used for both summative, formative assessments, or even just for fun or a check-in during your lessons. We're going to go ahead and close this, and then we're going to open that assignment. Now this brings us back into Classroom. You can now see we've done this quiz, it's automatically attached it, and we can start that private conversation with our teacher again. The teacher, on the other hand, will see that the fun quiz has been handed in by a single student and is still assigned to a student. So let's go ahead and click on handed in by that student. Student 1 has handed in their results. Here they are. We can click on it and we can now mark their work. So I find this another great addition to Google Classroom. In the Marks tab, you will see that this has now also been added, the fun quiz. We can mark it right here. We can say, okay, 10 out of 10. They've done it. They've completed that quiz. They've learned from it. And we are giving them some points for that. In addition to that, we can also manually mark all the other assignments from that Marks tab up there. Now within the Classwork page, there is one more thing that will save you a lot of work, and that is reusing a post. So when you click on Create, down below you can select Reuse a post. You can not only reuse a post from this classroom, you can reuse posts from other classrooms as well. So let's say that I want to reuse a post from this Design Thinking class. I can click on that class. It pulls up all the assignments and posts that have been set in that class. Create a slides presentation. I'm going to click on that. And then I can also tick the box to create new copies of all attachments. In other words, they're not reusing the old attachments. Click on reuse and that assignment will open up for me to tweak all the details and information. Change the instructions, change the title, change the points assigned, due dates, etc. Once I'm ready, I can assign this to my students. For this one, I'm going to click on the drop-down arrow and I'm going to simply save this as a draft and then go back to it later. Now, because I did not make this part of my other units, you can see here it has automatically created a prototype unit, and that is because the assignment that has been reused was part of the prototype unit. And then the last part of this webinar is going to be looking at the integration that Google Classroom has with the many other applications. Now, if you remember when I started, I said that the Google Classroom being created is also setting up a Google Drive folder and a Google Calendar. And that's because there is a tight integration with the calendar. There's also an integration with the Drive, and now there also is integration with Google Meet. So let's go and have a look at all three of these. We're going to open up our Google Classroom. We are here in Google Classroom. And when I navigate to the Classwork page, at the right-hand side at the top, you will see those three integrations. You'll see the integration with Meet, Calendar, and Drive. When I click on Calendar, it opens up my Google Calendar in a separate tab and is automatically going to put all the assigned work onto that calendar. In addition to that, there's integration with Google Drive. When I click on that Google Drive folder, I automatically open up my Google Drive folder. You can see there is templates. It does say do not edit, so I would stay away from that. And then you have your different assignments. technical drawings, I can go in and here you can see all my students' work. Because if you remember, we made a copy for every student, and so every assignment that you make copies in, everything goes into Google Drive. And then finally, we have that integration with Google Meet. When I click on Google Meet, you can see here, Meet video meetings, you can connect with your students, you can generate a special link, you can make it visible to students or not. So let's go ahead and click on Generate a Link. And we can then copy that link and share it with our students. This is currently visible to students. What does that mean? Well, that means that our students here in their Google Classroom will see that link. Here at the top, you will see the link is there. They can click on it and then they automatically join that meeting. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to click on it. This opens up Google Meeting. And there we go. We are now inside Google Meeting. This was generated within Google Classroom, and therefore it is much easier for our students to join this way, because you can just simply generate that link, show it to your students, and then as soon as it's over, hide that link. Now we're going to close this for now. I'm going to go back to our teacher's account. Now say that you want a different link because the link has been shared on other platforms or there's students joining that shouldn't be joining. Well, you can always go into your settings, scroll down, and then here you can change that Meet link. So you can see here, I can click on drop down and reset. As soon as I've clicked on reset, a new link appears. Now the same goes for your invitation code. Here at the top, we have our invitation code, but we can always just simply click on this and reset that code. That means that once you've finished your session and people should not be joining anymore, similar to this demo session, I'm going to disable and reset this link after our webinar, and that way people cannot join this classroom. You can also scroll down a little bit further and then you'll see something called marking. This is where you can add different categories to your grades. So here there is no overall mark. You can weigh it by category or total points. I'm going to add a mark category. So here we have online work. And then the default points are usually 100. I can also add in classwork, and there I usually use 200. Or we have extra credit work, and that'll be an extra 20 points. There we go. We're going to click on Save at the top. And now whenever we are assigning a new assignment, so let's go ahead and do that now. Here under the categories, we can select a different mark category. So we can say this is online work 100 demo of mark category. There we go. We're going to assign, and you will see that it automatically assigns that category to my assignment. So here we have demo of a mark category, and then here you see online work. So the student automatically knows the type of assignment, the type of work this is. I find this an additional extra little trick to really visually represent the different types of work that you are sharing with your students. And that is all about Google Classroom. Now, I hope you found this webinar helpful. If you have any more questions, make sure that you go down into that chat section, that you ask your questions in the chat. Myself and a number of colleagues are in the chat answering questions. If you have follow-up questions when you're watching the replay, there's always the comment section underneath our videos. You can use that comment section. We will get back to you as soon as we've read your comment, and then you will get an answer to your questions. I hope that you will be joining the other webinars as well. We have a number of other webinars coming up, many different subjects, and each of those will be linked in the descriptions below. I hope you've learned a couple of new little tricks in Google Classroom and that you've enjoyed this presentation as much as I have presenting it to you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.